NASCAR is turning itself upside down right now. Can you believe what is happening? Two of the sport's largest teams have just taken an important legal move that might alter the future of racing as we know it. This isn't just another narrative about fast cars racing around a track. It's a high-stakes war for control of the entire sport. 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports aren't holding back. They've launched a federal antitrust case against NASCAR, and they're going straight for the heart. This case is about more than just one race. It is about power, money, and the fundamental foundation of the sport itself. To make matters worse for NASCAR, two of these teams' top drivers are in the final 8. NASCAR would explode if one of these two won the title. For years, NASCAR has been dominated by the France family, who have overseen the sport since its inception in 1948. However, two of the sport's most renowned teams have accused NASCAR of monopolistic activities. They say that NASCAR's financial model harms not just the teams, but also the sport's drivers, sponsors, and spectators. What about this lawsuit? It's a direct challenge to NASCAR's decades-long operating model. The charter system is the central issue in this legal struggle. This concept, adopted by NASCAR in 2016, was intended to provide teams with some security, a guaranteed position in races, as well as a percentage of the sport's earnings. Doesn't it sound great? Okay, not so fast. According to the teams who filed the complaint, this approach has done the exact opposite. Rather of bringing stability and financial success, it has left many teams battling to exist. Running a NASCAR team is not cheap, and these teams claim they are barely getting by while NASCAR profits handsomely. Let's take a step back and examine what's happening here. Michael Jordan, yes, that Michael Jordan, owns 23XI Racing with driver Denny Hamlin and is a significant role in this litigation. Jordan is recognized as one of the most intense competitors in sports history, and he's bringing that same passion to NASCAR. Jordan was candid in his remarks regarding the case. He discussed how much he enjoys racing and how passionate the fans are, but he also stated unequivocally that the way NASCAR is operated is unfair to the teams, sponsors, and fans. He is not alone. Bob Jenkins, the owner of Front Row Motorsports, has been outspoken about his team's financial woes. Jenkins has been a part of NASCAR for over 20 years, but he claims he has never made a profit. Jenkins said that even in 2021, when his driver Michael McDowell won the Daytona 500, his team made no money. Can you imagine winning one of the world's largest races and not making a profit? That is ridiculous. Jenkins has indicated that enough is enough. He is pushing for a system that works for all teams, not just NASCAR. On his Actions Detrimental podcast last week, Hamlin discussed the lawsuit's future moves. He discussed what 23XI and Front Row plan to accomplish next for the 2025 Cup Series season and beyond. We stated that we'll be filing for an injunction. That's the first thing that has to happen, Hamlin said. The injunction is basically we're going to seek relief, and in injunctions, you typically have to show, again, I'm not a lawyer, so be careful here, you have to show irreparable harm if you don't stop it. We're trying to stop NASCAR from taking our charters. Obviously, there would be massive irreparable harm there. We're going to go to the courts and say, listen, let us operate as a chartered team while this lawsuit goes on over the next year to 2 years. If you lose your charters and you win the lawsuit, then what? You can't go back. It's going to be tough to operate that way. As 23XI, we're prepared for any outcome. I think Michael Jordan has stated, and I've stated to the team, we will not let this affect our employees whatsoever in any kind of way, and any financial distress is going to have to fall directly on the owners. It will not fall on our people whatsoever. We will not allow that to happen. This lawsuit is rocking the foundations of NASCAR, and it all comes down to some serious allegations. The teams claim that NASCAR is exploiting its position to create a monopoly, locking them into unequal contracts and preventing them from competing anyplace else. They allege that NASCAR regulates everything, from the racetracks to the parts that teams may utilize in their vehicles. According to the lawsuit, this amount of control has forced the teams to either follow NASCAR's regulations or leave the sport completely. This is where things become even more fascinating. The teams engaged a lawyer called Jeffrey Kessler, which should sound familiar. Kessler is one of the world's leading antitrust attorneys, with a track record of winning major sports lawsuits. So, when Kessler describes this as one of the most anti-competitive situations he's ever seen, you know it's bad. What we are arguing here is that NASCAR is a monopoly. No surprise to NASCAR fans. There is no alternative to NASCAR, not just in this country, but frankly, around the world, and it got its monopoly illegally. So, something had to change. On September 6th, NASCAR, using its monopoly, went to all the teams at 5 o'clock and said, here's a 100-page agreement. Either accept it by 6, or you cannot have a charter. Most of the teams folded because they couldn't afford to fight NASCAR. They couldn't risk their franchise, they couldn't risk their employees. 2 teams, my clients, did not fold. That's Front Row and 2311. They decided somebody has got to stand up to this. Somebody has got to say enough is enough, and they are going to file this lawsuit so that NASCAR can come into the 21st century. However, in a filing on Wednesday, NASCAR stated that it wants for faster discovery. Despite the continuing conflict, the company announced plans to have 32 charters for the 2025 season. NASCAR has taken steps, consistent with its contractual obligations to other charter teams, to plan for a season with only 32 charters, the news release stated. NASCAR is working on reallocating funds that plaintiffs would have received to increase prize money and other special awards for the 2025 season for the benefit of teams that timely executed 2025 charters, as well as open teams who can compete to win the increased prize money. What distinguishes this lawsuit from prior legal disputes is how NASCAR allegedly utilized its authority to stifle competitors. The complaint claims that NASCAR controls the majority of the greatest racetracks in the country. These courses are unique to NASCAR events, therefore no other racing series may utilize them. They've also acquired prospective competitors, such as the Automobile Racing Club of America, ARCA, which was once one of the few stock car racing series in the United States. Eventually, NASCAR made it difficult for anyone else to form a competing league. One of the most serious complaints the teams have is how NASCAR has pushed them into exclusivity contracts. According to the complaint, teams are not permitted to compete in any stock car races other than NASCAR. This implies that if a team wanted to compete in another league, they couldn't. They're inextricably linked to NASCAR, whether they like it or not. And it doesn't stop there. NASCAR also controls the next-gen parts and cars that the teams are allowed to use, and they've made deals with suppliers that force the teams to buy their parts from specific companies, often at higher prices than they could get elsewhere. The teams are also dissatisfied with the way the discussions for the new charter agreement have gone. According to reports, NASCAR made a take-it-or-leave-it offer 48 hours before the 2025 playoffs began. Talk about pressure. The teams allege they were compelled to sign the agreement because NASCAR threatened to revoke their charters, which would result in them losing their guaranteed positions in the races. We got our DocuSign that evening at 6:37 is when it came in, and we had to sign it by 12 o'clock, or we'd lose our charters. I didn't have a choice because we had to sign. I got over 400 employees, OEM contracts, contracts with sponsors, and I got to take care of my team. So, what will happen next? The teams are seeking the court for a preliminary injunction, which would allow them to continue racing under new terms while the complaint is being resolved. They also demand triple damages, which means they might be paid 3 times the amount of money they lost as a result of NASCAR's alleged anti-competitive conduct. If the court decides in their favor, NASCAR might face a significant financial penalty, and the sport's whole structure could shift. This lawsuit might also provide a significant precedent for how professional sports leagues function in the United States. If the teams prevail, it might pave the way for similar cases in other sports, particularly those involving exclusive contracts and monopolistic conduct. Furthermore, advertisers and broadcasters who are carefully following this action may be compelled to reconsider their own arrangements with NASCAR, thus further damaging the sport's commercial side. The conclusion might alter NASCAR forever. NASCAR has been the king of the hill for a long time, but this lawsuit may change that forever. This concludes today's episode. Make sure to leave a comment with your opinions on this, and while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe for future videos.